you saw the thumbnail, you read the title. We're going to be going over my SPR setup. Just going to start off doing a quick overview of the rifle so that you know what we're working with. So the rifle at its core is the Daniel Defense V11 Pro. So the V11 Pro, or the Pro series, they've done the V11 Pro and the V7 Pro. The V11 came with a key mod rail, so I'm still running the key mod rail. I've had this rifle for I think 7 years or so. Came with a key mod rail. I don't mind it, so I haven't changed it out. But what the Pro Series was, what was different about the Pro Series from the Standard Series was the Pro Series came with an 18-inch heavier profile barrel. It came with Daniel Defense's muzzle climb mitigator, the BCM gunfighter charging handle, and the Geisley super dynamic 3-gun trigger. So this rifle was originally intended to be a competition rifle, the V11 and the V7 alike, both designed to be a competition rifle. I like the 18-inch barrel, so this is the one I went with. Like I said, it's been phenomenal. I've had it for about 7 years. I haven't changed out anything internally on it, so it is still a stock Daniel Defense rifle. I've just changed the way it looks a little bit. So as you can see, it is spray painted. This is, I believe, its 4th coat of spray paint over the years. And I enjoy spray painting my stuff. All right, before I hop into that, the gun is clear. There's nothing in it, but it looks cooler with a magazine. The stock that I put on it is the Veltor E-Mod. Now, besides the fact that I think this is the coolest stock on the market as far as looks go, the reason I went with this was because I like the B5 stock mod. I like the wide cheek weld that you get on it, but as far as using it with bags, there's not really much on the B5 that aids in that. There's not any sort of bag rider situation going on. So as you can see right here, it's got that flat spot, works good if you're shooting off of a bag. Coming on forward to that, the grip that I'm running is the BCM gunfighter grip. Just got the storage on the bottom. Do I have anything stored? Yeah, so in the storage on it, I've got a set of foamy earplugs, a lens cloth, and I've got a little Allen wrench to use on my turret if I need to make adjustments on it, need to slip the rings or whatever. Like I said, the trigger in it is the Geisley super dynamic 3-gun trigger. It's a phenomenal trigger. It's like 3.5 pounds, I believe, from the factory. After 7 years or so, it's worked its way down to about 3 pounds. Really, really light. It's a single stage flat face trigger. Phenomenal trigger. You can really get on it and run it quick, but it also performs excellent when you need to take precision shots out at distance. Coming forward of that, you'll see I've got an arca rail because I do run it in a tripod very, very often. So I've got a arca rail that goes about 3/4 of the way across the bottom of the rail. Forward of that, I've got a Picatinny rail. Now you'll see that I've got the bipod mounted not at the end of the handguard. And you're probably wondering why. I'll get into that in just a little bit. But the bipod that I'm running is the Warren. It is the Skyline Light, I believe. Warren did send this bipod to me to help get them some pictures of it before they released it. So I'm running that on the arca system. This bipod really does not weigh a lot at all, especially compared to like my AccuTac. Really, really overbuilt, really durable. But sometimes that's not needed. This one doesn't feel quite as overbuilt, but it doesn't weigh as much. Like I said, I'm running it on the arca system, and it's got tons of adjustments as far as the legs. It's got 90 and 45 degree leg slots. Really, really awesome bipod. So why do I have the bipod mounted so far back? Obviously it doesn't look as cool, and that is rule number 1, is to look cool. And so by having it back here, I'm just kind of ignoring that rule. The reason I have it mounted so far back is, we'll go ahead and drop it down. So the reason I have it so far back is, if it's mounted all the way out there at the end, if I can get my words out, once I'm in the prone position, it's really difficult to reach all the way out there and use the adjustments. So by putting it back here, even when I'm down in the prone position, it's not a problem to make any leg adjustments that I need to make. I can really easily reach them. And then also, the bipod is mounted on an arca plate. So as I mentioned, we've got an arca plate running across 3/4 of the bottom. And so with that, I can twist one knob and I can adjust where the bipod is anywhere on that rail. So why that would be helpful would be shooting in like an unconventional situation off a barricade or whatever. You know, depending on how that's set up, I might need to pull the bipod all the way back here if maybe I need to gain just a couple extra inches, so I can, you know, toss the bag down and then use the bipod to sit on top of the bag, and then that gives me an extra, you know, 2 or 3 inches. So that's why I have the bipod mounted so far back, as opposed to the more conventional, you know, running all the way out there at the end. As you can see out on the end, I'm running a suppressor. So the suppressor that I'm running on it right now is the Rugged Alaskan 360. This is not the titanium version, but this can really surprise me with how lightweight it is. I mean, it weighs next to nothing, especially for it being a 36 caliber steel can. I'm running the 36 caliber end cap on it. I didn't buy the 5.56 cap to go on the end, and I really haven't noticed much of an issue. I get a little bit more flash just because I've got more gas escaping out the front, but it also means there's less gas coming back into the system. On the back of it, I've got the Reardon Atlas. This is the XL version, and the finish on it is the rainbow. Now you're probably wondering why I put the rainbow, and I had this cool idea that because it's the Rugged Alaskan, since, you know, like I said, it's the Alaskan, put the rainbow, Northern Lights, Alaskan, I don't know, just kind of fit with the theme, and I think it turned out cool. You probably don't like it because it's rainbow, but it's not like homosexual rainbow. It's like an oil stain rainbow. Running the Reardon, this is the DPB, I want to say, the double port brake. Really awesome system. I love running the Reardon. I run the Reardon stuff across all my platforms. Both my cans got the Reardon Atlas adapter, and I run Reardon devices on everything. The sling that I'm running is the Lunar Concepts padded contour sling. This rifle, I mean, as you can see, it's got a lot going on. It's a pretty hefty rifle. So this contour sling, the padded contour sling, just makes it a little bit more comfortable when I do have it slung for a longer period of time. I also like the rigidity that the sling has with that padding. It just makes it a little bit easier getting in and out of it. It doesn't get tangled up quite as bad around the rifle, around myself, around other things. Really cool sling. Really enjoyed it. Now let's hop into what I've got sitting on top, because this is really what sets this rifle off. So the optic that I have up here is the Zerotech. It is the Trace Advanced. It's a 4-24 first focal plane with a Trimmer 3 reticle. So if you've never used the Trimmer 3 reticle, you're severely missing out, especially when you need to shoot out the distance. Ooh, it's really phenomenal. You're probably gonna be a little bit overwhelmed the first time you look through it and you see the Trimmer 3 reticle, but once you start using it, it's really something special. Excellent design. It's sitting in a worn mount. And then off right here at 45 degrees, I've got the Zerotech, the Thrive HD reflex sight, also on a worn mount. So the things that were provided, I want to be really transparent. So Zerotech and Warren did send me what you see. So Zerotech did send the scope, they sent the red dot. Warren sent the mount for the scope, the mount for the red dot, and the bipod. Just to try to be as transparent. Everything else on it I did buy, except for the Reardon device. Reardon did send the Atlas and the muzzle device. Okay, so on top of the scope, I have a bubble level. Now, if you're going to be shooting out a distance with a setup similar to this, or really anything that you're going to be shooting out a distance and you're going to be holding over and dialing and whatnot, you really need to have a bubble level on there. That way you can be sure that your bullet is falling in line with your optic. So what I mean by that is, if you're shooting long range and your rifle's canted, well, that bullet is still going to be falling with gravity. But if your optic's canted, then you're going to be thinking there's more wind than there is. Or even if there's no wind, you're still going to be perceiving that there's wind, because your reticle is this way and your bullet is exiting the barrel and it's falling, and it's not in line with your muzzle. I mean, it's not in line with your optic. So you need to make sure that you have a bubble level on there. That way you can make sure that your reticle is actually level and running straight to the way that gravity works. All right, so what's my experiences with this rifle? Like I said, I've said it several times, bought it when I was 16, so I've had it for what, 7 years now. Been phenomenal, put tens of thousands of rounds through it. Within the last year, all of the rounds have been suppressed. I don't think I've shot it unsuppressed even once. So I've been switching off between this rugged Alaskan 360 and the Otter Creek Labs Polonium K. Obviously the Polonium K sounds a little bit better, but the Polonium K is on my 12.5-inch rifle. So I don't like switching suppressors back and forth. So I've got the rugged Alaskan on this rifle. It also, the longer suppressor looks a little bit cooler in my opinion on this setup. But like I said, tens of thousands of rounds put through it. I've had very, very minimal hiccups. The hiccups that I have had, I chalk up to it being really dirty because I honestly don't clean my guns at all. Once they start running a little bit sluggish, I'll pull out the bolt carrier group, the buffer, I'll wipe them down a little bit, lube them back up, and continue to run them. So after, 5,000 or 6,000 rounds, it really starts to get a little bit sluggish occasionally. So like I said, that's when I'll pull it out. So the times that I've had malfunctions, it was simply just, it was running dry and had too much junk in it, and I wasn't oiling it and lubing it like I needed to. Like I said, been phenomenal rifle. I consistently get around 1 MOA if I do my part. The rifle is absolutely capable of one MOA with good ammo. My favorite ammo to run in it really just depends on what I'm doing. So what I tend to shoot just is like a range ammo is this AAC. It is the 75 grain boat tail hollow point match bullet. Really, really good ammo, really affordable price, and I've been really surprised with the accuracy that I can get out of it. Taking this ammo out to 1,000 yards in this rifle without any issues. As far as if I'm really trying to shoot for good accuracy, then I really like this Hornady Black. Again, it's the 75 grain boat tail hollow point. This is what I'll be shooting in an upcoming match, DMR match in June at the Clinton House Plantation, and then I'll be shooting a match again in September if everything goes according to plan. So this is the ammo that I'll be shooting in it. I've been really, really happy with it. This is what my gun zeroed for, and I get really good groups out of it. When I'm using this rifle for hunting, because I do use it for hunting, I've taken, I think, 5 or 6 deer with it, taking a fox, taking a coyote. Then I really, really like this Underwood ammo. It is the 62 grain controlled chaos round. So this bullet was designed to hit soft targets. So animals, people, that kind of stuff, hit meat. It's really, really phenomenal bullet. Get good accuracy out of it, and I've been extremely satisfied with the performance that I'm getting out of it shooting soft targets, shooting game animals with it. I don't recommend people shoot .223 for deer, because my theory is that if you're asking my opinion on if you should, then you're not confident enough in your abilities. And if you're not confident enough in your abilities, then you don't need to be using .223, because it leaves very little room for error. Because I've had really good success with it. This is my preferred deer hunting rifle. Looks a little bit overkill, don't it? Like I said, it's my preferred deer hunting rifle. I shoot it the most. I shoot it year round. Been shooting it for the last 7 years. Put tens of thousands of rounds behind it. So it is the rifle that I'm the most comfortable with, and that's why I use it. And so paired with the 62 grain controlled chaos round from Underwood Ammo, I've never had a deer. The fox, of course, has dropped immediately. The coyote did as well. I've never had a deer go over 30 yards. I heart shot every single one of them, and this ammo really does the trick. So as I said, I do hunt with this rifle, pretty much all the time. So it does really well at that. The 18-inch barrel really boosts my confidence as far as shooting animals and soft targets. I like the velocity, because velocity equals energy, and energy is foot-pounds of energy, and that equals stopping power, if you will. So the more velocity that I can get out of it, the more energy it'll have, depending, especially using the heavier bullet. So not to get into physics, but you've got basically 2 types of energy that you can get from a bullet. You can get speed, and you can get the mass. So think, for instance, like a 5.7 going really, really fast, doesn't weigh much, but all the energy is coming from the speed, whereas like a 45-70, big old honking bullet, but it's not moving fast. So you've got 2 different types of energy that you can get. You can get velocity or you can get mass. So I'm trying to maximize that out of the 223. So I'm running the 18-inch barrel to get most of the velocity that I can get. Run a 75 grain or a 77 grain, you know, the heavier bullets that are offered, so that I'm getting as much mass as I can on target. So I've been really pleased with it as far as hunting goes. I've also shot this rifle out to 1,000 yards several times, and it's relatively easy at that. Now, 223 really kind of, you know, it's not ideal to shoot at 1,000 yards, but if you just want to have fun, want to know if you can do it, well, you can do it with especially with an 18-inch 5.56. It is very possible, and you can be relatively consistent at that. 800 yards and in is absolutely no problem. That's a cakewalk, as long as the wind ain't doing anything funky. And then 600 yards, I can pull triples and quadruples. So what I mean by that is, on a man-sized silhouette, I can have 3 or 4 rounds in the air before the first one hits the target. Really fun to do, really cool to do. If you get a good position built up behind it, it's really no problem. Taking a class with this rifle. So I was actually shooting a class, been 2 weekends ago. So the March 8th through the 11th, I was doing media for John Ruge, or as you probably know him as the Weapon Snatcher, doing 3 classes out here at the Sawmill, which is a local range to me. So I went and done pictures and videos for him, was his cameraman for those 3 classes. So it was pistol analytics, carbine analytics, and then it was a 2-day scoped rifle advancement course. And that's what I was using this in, was the scoped rifle advancement course. Shot out to 1,000 yards, no problem at all. After taking the information that he went over, I took that and applied it to myself, and was able to get multiple hits at 1,000 yards with relative ease. 800 yards, I don't think I dropped a shot the whole time I was shooting. 800, 600 yards, pulling triples and quadruples wasn't an issue. I do plan to run, as I mentioned, run this rifle in some DMR matches. So there's one coming up in June at the Clinton House Plantation, again, which is a local range to me. And then there's another one in September at the Sawmill that I mentioned, again, local to me. So my plan is to run this rifle in both of those matches this year. I want to get into shooting matches, and the DMR matches I think is right up my alley. I think I'll really enjoy it. Fairly confident shooting at distance with this rifle. The only thing I need to really work on is time management and sticking to a plan, and then I need to do a little bit more working on barricades. If you saw in some of this B-roll, don't really know what I'm doing, shooting off barricades, tank traps, that kind of stuff. So I need to work on that before I do jump into the matches. But regardless, I'm gonna jump into them. I really want to push myself, really want to test my skill, meet some cool people, the camaraderie, and I want to do something other than just, you know, post pictures of guns. I want to actually use them and do stuff with them. All right, I apologize if the lighting ain't as good. I was getting hot, sun's beaming out here. The camera was starting to overheat and do some funky stuff. I was overheating, doing some funky stuff. So I apologize if the lighting's not as good, but like I said, I was getting hot and needed to move in the shade. So we're gonna kind of jump into what makes an SPR, in my opinion. Now, for conversation's sake, we're gonna be talking about this right, a setup like this right here as far as an SPR. I often make the argument that basically every gun or every rifle is an SPR, because all of my rifles are designed with a specific or a special purpose in mind. But for, like I said, conversation's sake, we're gonna be talking about something like this. So a longer, accurized, you know, medium-sized cartridge platform. So like an 18-inch 5.56 gun. So what are the 2 factors, in my opinion, that make up an SPR? Is going to be your accuracy that you're able to achieve out of the platform, and the optic that you have on it. So I could take this same rifle right here, and if I throw a red dot on it, well, it doesn't really make a great special purpose rifle. Or if I've got a really accurate, you know, 7-inch barreled 5.56, you know, even if I can shoot Win MOA, it's still not going to lend me well as an SPR for what I need the rifle to do, which is to be precise at longer distances. You know, that 0 to we'll say 600 yards. That's kind of where most people cap it. Very capable past that. At least I'm not trying to be prideful, but I'm capable out to 800 yards with ease. An 800-yard shot with this setup is really no issue at all. But like I said, you need good accuracy, and the optic setup that you have on it is going to really determine whether or not it's an SPR. Now, as far as accuracy goes, I don't think that you even necessarily need a 1 MOA gun, because truth be told, most shooters aren't 1 MOA shooters. They can't consistently shoot a 1-inch square at 100 yards. And then you've also got to factor in the ammo. You know, most people aren't shooting match grade ammo. They've got not great zeros. They don't really know how to use their optic, and they don't get a consistent cheek weld behind it, and so their parallax can be shifting a little bit. So like I said, most people aren't 1 MOA shooters. So I don't even think that it's necessary that you have a 1 MOA gun. I think at a minimum, a 2 MOA gun. That's very, very realistic. That's very achievable by any manufacturer, and that's very achievable by any shooter as long as they apply the right fundamentals and they build that consistent platform behind the gun, if you will. So like I said, you don't have to have a 1 MOA gun for it to be an SPR. I think 2 MOA gun, and then you've got to talk about distance. So how far do you want to shoot this rifle? You know, you've got to know where that bullet's dropping from supersonic to subsonic, so that middle stage of transonic, which is going to make it, the transonic is the least stable stage of the bullet's flight path. So you need to understand what distance that is. So for instance, like this 18-inch rifle with the bullet that I'm shooting and how I've got this set up, the bullet is dropping into this transonic stage right at like 900 yards. Just a hair before 900 yards. And then it drops into subsonic just before it hits 1,000 yards. So there's, you know, about 100 yards where that bullet's in the transonic stage and it's really unstable. So you've got to take that into consideration, because if you're running a shorter barrel, it's going to drop into transonic at a much shorter distance, and that bullet's going to be at the most unstable point, and you need to know where that distance is. So I know out to 800 yards, that's why I say out to 800 yards is very, very easy, because I'm still getting really good accuracy. Obviously, as the distance goes on, if I can shoot 1 inch at 100 yards, ideally I should be able to shoot 8 inches at 800 yards, because that bullet, or the shot cone, is gradually getting bigger as you got the distance. But as soon as the bullet drops into transonic, it's basically, you know, smooth lines, and then drops into transonic, and then that cone gets a lot bigger really, really fast. So what's a 1 MOA gun out to, say, 800 yards, as soon as it drops into transonic, now that gun is, you know, it could be a 6 MOA gun, if you, or, you know, whatever number you want to put on there. So depending on what barrel length and what velocity and everything, and the accuracy, is going to determine how that bullet's performing downrange in those SPR distances, you know, the 600 yards, and we'll say 600 yards and in. But like I said, I'm dropping into transonic right before 900 yards, and then it's dropping into subsonic right before 1,000 yards. So 900 yards, you know, I can be shooting 800 yards. I mean, shot after shot after shot, getting impacts. Once I get out to 900 yards, it's like I'm getting, you know, maybe 2 out of 3 at best on target. But it's not consistent. I can't consistently get a wind call. You know, I might shoot one round that goes off the left edge, shoot another round that goes off the right edge, shoot one round that goes over top, you know, and I'm just kind of hovering around. And then once I drop into 1,000 yards, now it stabilizes again, and I'm getting more consistency than I was at 900 yards. So that's why I'm confident getting impacts at 1,000 yards with this rifle. Obviously, I wouldn't take a shot on an animal at that distance, because I don't have the energy that I need to, and I'm not as precise. I'm talking man-sized silhouette targets. I can get most of my hits at 1,000 yards as long as the wind ain't doing anything too funky. So that's why it's important to have good accuracy, and that's why I think accuracy is one of the determining factors of what makes an SPR. Now we'll jump into the second factor, which is, in my opinion, the second factor, which is the optic that you have on it. Like I said, I could throw a red dot on this rifle, and even though the rifle's still capable of a certain amount of accuracy, I can't see well enough to achieve that accuracy. And there's more to it than just being able to shoot, you know, a 1-inch group at 100 yards. The optic that you have on it does not determine the accuracy of the rifle, doesn't even determine the accuracy of the shooter, but it does allow you to see better. And why you need to see better isn't even necessarily during the shot, it's before and after the shot. You need to be able to see what you're shooting at. I'll throw it into a hunting perspective. Hunting with a red dot is pretty nice. You know, it's quick. You don't have to be perfectly behind the gun. You know, as long as that dot's on it, you can pull the trigger. But as soon as you're, we'll say even 30 yards, and you're trying to, you see a deer through the trees at 30 yards, that red dot, sure, you can get a shot on the deer, but you can't see exactly what you're shooting at. You can't count the points that it's got on its antlers. Sometimes you can't even see if it's got antlers because there's so many trees, and you can't pick out the details with your naked eye, and you definitely can't do it through the red dot. So by having magnification, you can zoom in and observe. You get a better idea of what the target is that you're intending to take, because you need to know every single thing about your target. And without magnification, it's really hard to do that. So when I'm running a red dot, I like to have a pair of binos handy, but that's not for this conversation. So the magnification and the optic that you have on your rifle is going to determine whether or not it falls into that SPR category. Like I said, the magnification isn't even important necessarily during the shot process. If I know I'm shooting this target, I don't need a whole lot of magnification, but I need a good enough amount of magnification that I can see it before I do shoot it, so that I can determine whether or not that's the target that I'm shooting, whether it be an animal or maybe a certain silhouette. Maybe you're out on the range, like the sawmill, you know, they got rows of targets, and if you're out there on the line, each shooter's got a designated target, and you need to be able to pick out the details on it. Maybe it's got a number on his head or whatnot. You need to be able to pick out the details on it to know, okay, this is the target that I'm going after. Make sure I don't shoot any of the other targets. You need to be able to identify the target that you're shooting at. And then also, you need the magnification after the shot. So if I'm shooting at 1,000 yards with a 1:8, I can absolutely get hits on the silhouette or on the target that I'm shooting at 1,000 yards with a 1:8 or a 1:6. But as far as spotting my impacts, maybe the wind picks up and I throw around to the left side of it, I'm not going to be able to really see where that round impacted if I've only got 6 power magnification. So like I said, you don't need the magnification when shooting the target, but you need the magnification before and after the shot. So 2 weekends ago when I was taking that class, you know, I was getting hits at 1,000 yards, and then the wind picked up where the target was. So it picked up down range where the target was sitting, and I had the exact same hold. You know, I hit 2 shots back to back, and then the exact same hold, the third shot went off the left edge. And there wasn't much to go off of. You know, all I knew was if I'd had a lower power optic, I would obviously known that it was a miss because I didn't hear the impact. But since I had a little bit more magnification, I was able to see the impact hit the dirt, and then I could actually take my optic, held it on the target where I was holding, looked over, lined up where the impact was in the reticle, and then take that spot of the reticle, come over and get an impact. So you need that magnification to be able to spot your misses or your impacts. You might need it to spot another person's impacts. So again, in the same class, I was spotting for one of the students. He was shooting out at, I think it was like right at 1,250 yards or so, 1,300 yards. And I was able to use this optic at 24 power, and like I said, I'm running the Trimmer 3 reticle in it, so it's a really busy reticle. You know, I've got all the holds. So I was able to sit there and hold on to the target, the same target he was shooting at, and I could spot his impacts, you know, where they were hitting in the dirt. And then I was able to call his corrections by using the reticle in my optic. And since I had enough magnification to actually spot the impacts, even if it was small little puffs of dirt, you know, I could use the magnification to see that, and then use the reticle inside of it to call corrections so that he could get impacts. So there's a lot of situations where you need that magnification. So like I said, whether it be hunting or other live things, or you need to spot your impacts or another person's impacts. So that's why you need magnification on an SPR setup, which, I mean, it's good to have magnification across the board, but specifically on this rifle or this type of setup for what it's intended for, you need magnification. Now reticle, that's user preference. Obviously, I'm going to recommend a first focal plane mil scope, but you can absolutely run MOA. There's just a little bit more math involved. and most people are running mills. So if you're on a line and you need to call corrections, most people understand how to call corrections in mills. They don't really understand it in MOA. It's just, again, it's user preference. You can absolutely learn it. You can run an MOA scope. Plenty of people do. There's plenty of students in this past class running MOA scopes, but mills is definitely preferred. First focal plane, that way, again, it's less thinking, less math, because no matter what magnification you're on, your reticle and your holds are going to line up. Now, if you're dialing for everything, first or second focal plane doesn't really matter, because your dialing is going to be accurate across the board. But if you need to hold, so for quicker follow-up shots, is a lot less thinking if you got a first focal plane. Now, the specific reticle that you use, that's completely up to you. Maybe you want to use something really busy and, you know, got a lot of information in it, like the Trimmer 3. Absolutely love it for this, but as far as if I need to use it in more like a general purpose role, it's really, really fine reticle, and it's got a lot of, I'll throw up a picture of it right here. So as you can see, there's not really a good like quick aiming point. It's really fine reticle, so it's really good for precision work. Not so great if I need to use it up close, which is why I've got the offset red dot on it. So again, the reticle doesn't really matter, but that's the two factors, in my opinion, that's going to make or break an SPR. Is going to be the accuracy you can achieve and the optic that you have sitting on top of it. Obviously, there's more factors that you can toss around, but to keep it simple, in my opinion, that's the two that's going to make or break it. One thing to note on a scope like this, before we move past that, before I forget. All right, so this scope right here, as you can see, it's got exposed turrets, so that makes it really good for dialing. And it's completely user error on my end. It's nothing against the scope or scopes like it. But if you do have a scope like that's got the exposed turrets and you're dialing, make sure that before you go to shoot that you're checking your turret. What I mean by that is the last week, within the last 7 days, it's happened to me twice. Like I said, it's completely user error, but I was dialed to shoot 1,000. So when I'm shooting 1,000 yards, it's 14 mils of elevation is what I got to hold. So I dialed a 10 and then I hold 4 inside the scope. So when I dialed a 10, it's on 0. Because the turret goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, back on 0. So when I look at it, I'm like, okay, I'm zeroed out when I need to go shoot 100 or 200 yards. And like I said, I think I'm zeroed out because it's on 0, but really I'm dialed to 10. So I'm holding for 900 yards, and I can't figure out why I can't hit the target at 1 and 200 yards. So like I said, it's completely user error. Just make sure that if you are shooting an optic like this, that before you go to shoot up close, well, across the board, make sure you're checking your turret, but especially if you're shooting up close, even if it's on 0, go ahead and twist it, and if it moves, obviously you're not on 0. So make sure you have your 0 stop set. Like I said, that's something I've got to build the habit of, because I've messed myself up twice in the last 7 days doing that exact thing. So now I'm having to train myself that even if it looks like it's on 0, reach up and twist it and make sure that it's stopped out at actual 0. So now, why would you want an SPR? Well, I can't really make that decision for you. I would recommend that you have one. I think that it holds a very valuable place in your lineup of rifles. But again, I can't tell you why you wouldn't want one. I'll just tell you why I like it. So this is my ideal setup. If I could only have one, this would be it. You know, it's the 18-inch 5.56 with a rifle length gas system, a good optic. So this is the 4-24 first focal plane, a really solid reticle that allows me to shoot out distance with ease, and then an offset dot. Like I said, I'm gonna try to do a piggyback dot, try that on it just to see how I like it on this type of setup. I've got no real complaints with the 45 degree, but I'm gonna try the piggyback on it. I feel very confident with it, no matter really what I'm doing. And I say what I'm doing. So for everything that I require of a rifle at this time in my life, this does it all. I'm not clearing houses. I'm gonna really refuse to clear a house unless I absolutely have to. And when I say have to, I mean absolutely have to. I don't know what I'm doing clearing a house. I definitely don't want to do it by myself, and I don't have a team to clear it with. Even if I did, I wouldn't know what to do. I don't want to clear houses. So I'm not going to build a rifle around that because I'm going to avoid that at all costs. What I'm going to try to do is stay back a little bit farther, and I'm going to try to pick my targets. This does really good at that. It also does really well in a hunting situation for the animals we've got around here. I'm in South Carolina, so the biggest thing we've got is a deer. You know, and you're 230 pounds max typically. This does fine. People, well, I mean now people are, it used to be that you weren't really going to find people like 250 pounds or so, but now everybody's over that. But even then, I feel pretty confident that this could handle the job. As far as shooting varmints and stuff, as you can see and hear, and I'm on a farm, so there's plenty of animals around. There's the occasional fox or coyote that needs to be taken out. This does really, really great at that. It's also just so much fun to shoot. You throw this thing on the tripod as you see here, and I mean, you can wear out a target anywhere from 0 to 600 yards. You know, I mean, you can really, really put in some work. It's super fun, makes a great match rifle. Like I said, I'm gonna run this in 2 matches this year, ideally. Try to run it in June and then September. I feel very confident with this setup. So if you really want one rifle that can handle basically everything that you need to do from 0 to 600 yards, this is the type of setup. Now, maybe some minor changes, of course, depending on your liking, but that's really gonna do it for you. Now, I know that some people are probably wondering why I don't have a light on it. There's the general rule, you know, that you need a good optic, good sling, and a good light on every fighting rifle. And I agree with that, except for when you don't need a light. So I've got this light right here. This is the Enforce WMLX Gen 2. Really quick to throw on and off. When I say quick, I mean like 2 seconds. I can throw it on there. So this rifle just kind of stays packed in whatever I'm wearing. When I'm running this rifle, if I need to throw it on, I can literally just toss it on the top rail. But when I don't want a light, I don't want a light. So it's easier just to pop it off and not have it on there. Save space, save snagging points, you know, just slim it down a little bit. So I think that you should have a light available, but I don't think it's crucial to have a light on a setup like this 100% of the time. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Mark 12. That is one of the best looking guns that ever created. All of them, the Mark 12, the Mod H, the Mod 1, the Mod O, all of them, oh man, they're good looking guns. And now everybody likes to call every SPR, because that's what the Mark 12 was designed for, except it wasn't special purpose rifle, a special purpose receiver. Now everybody coined the term SPR, special purpose rifle. I don't love the 3-letter acronyms, but for conversation's sake, that's how everybody likes to refer to them, so it's easier just to refer to it as that. But like I said, everybody likes to call a setup like this something that fulfills the same role as the Mark 12. They like to call them Mark 12s, even if they look nothing like a Mark 12. Stop doing that. It's so annoying. I'm sorry, little tangent here, little rant. It's not a Mark 12 unless it's a Mark 12. Just because it fulfills the same role as a Mark 12 does not mean it was a Mark 12. The Mark 12 was designed to fulfill that very specific role. It was a very specific platform designed to fill a specific role. So just because your rifle does that same thing does not mean that your rifle is a Mark 12. It's not a Mark 12 unless it is a Mark 12. And when I say unless it is a Mark 12, I mean like 90% there. It needs to be like 90% legitimate Mark 12 for me to call it a Mark 12. The SCAR replaced the Mark 12. The SCAR was designed to fill, or was contracted to fulfill the same purpose as the Mark 12. That does not mean that the SCAR is a Mark 12. So stop calling every SPR a Mark 12. It's not, unless it is. All right, so I think I've said my piece. I think I've went over everything. You should have enough information about it to take home with you. Ranted a little bit, so we'll go ahead and end it here. So 2 things. Make sure you're following me on Instagram if you want to be a part of all the action. For those that don't know, I started out as a gun gear photographer. Worked for a lot of cool companies. So some of the big companies that I work with is Walther, 2-Vets Tripod, Zero Tech Optics. And then I do some other stuff for companies like Warren and Reardon, and a few other companies are processing right now. So make sure you follow me over there. Be sure to comment on this video. It really helps the algorithm, and I'm trying to grow this so that I can get y'all more information out. It's easier to put out information in video form than, you know, like on Instagram. So make sure that you're following me over there. At least check it out. I respond really fast over there. If you need to DM me and if you got questions or want to just chit chat, just DM me over there. I respond relatively quickly over there. And also, before you do leave, like I said, comments really help. The algorithm helps this video. So go ahead and comment what your SPR setup is, what you're currently running, or maybe what your ideal, your dream setup would be. That can be as far-fetched or as realistic as you want it to be for you. Just go ahead and read it. This is, like I said, this is my bread and butter. I love these setups. So I'm really going to enjoy reading what y'all are running or what y'all want to run. I geek out over these type of guns. So I really do appreciate you watching. Like I said, be sure to comment what your SPR setup is and follow me on Instagram. I'll have the Instagram linked in the description of this video. It's the same handle as Operator Overalls. So if you want to be a part of all the action, be sure to hop over there, follow me. I really appreciate it. Let's chit chat, maybe link up one day, do a range day. We can shoot the SPRs out at distance. So I really appreciate y'all watching, and I will check y'all out on the next video. That's double taps at 600 yards. Alright, so for 1,000 with my ballistics, it's saying come up 14 mils. So what we're going to go ahead and dial. Okay, well, let's see. Okay, I'm going to dial to 10 and I'm going to hold for 4 and just kind of play around with my holds a little bit. I took one ear off just so that I could get a little bit better hearing if I do get an impact at 1,000, because like I said, I am shooting 5.56, so I'm getting basically very little sound report off the steel. I think I heard an impact. Try it again. Alright, that was an impact. Didn't hear that one. Alright, so what I'm actually going to do is try to bounce around. There's a row of targets. I'm going to try to bounce around and hit a couple different ones of them. Alright, that was 3 in a row. Hopefully one of those reports came back. Found my wind. Was able to get enough shots off before the wind changed. Like I said, that was 3 confirmed hits. So hopefully y'all picked it up. 1,000 yards is a long way for sound to travel back from 5.56. does. First round impact at 800 off the tripod standing. So if that doesn't tell you what tripods can do, I don't know what will.